Hey everyone. Hello. Happy Thursday. I can't believe another week bites the dust. We are jumping in for an important topic today. We're talking all about mental health. Let me try that again. We're talking about mental health's impacts on gut health. And, this is a really important but delicate topic, and there's a lot of nuance. And so we're going to be coming at this today with full hearts and open-mindedness and really talking about all aspects of this as best we can. And I say as best we can because there is always going to be, again, nuance. Nothing's ever going to be black and white, and we can only possibly cover so much in our time together in this single live. And I think it's really important that we preface our conversation around mental health with that, because what I'm going to share with you is probably something you've never considered when it comes to mental health and your gut health. But again, it's just one piece of the puzzle. And so while I share this angle of it, it's not to negate any other potential contributing factors. And so whenever we're looking at our symptoms, it's really important that we understand that everything is multifactorial and there's multiple pieces to a puzzle. And I think one of the things that gets people really hung up in their healing is they're looking at it like this sole thing, this like one thing they're going after. They're like, I just must need probiotics. So they take a probiotic supplement, like, why didn't that work? And it's like, well, that might only be like 3% of your puzzle, right? And so having said all of that, we have to really allow mental health to enter the conversation when we're talking about gut health, because these two things cannot be approached or handled separately, and one can't go without the other. And so what we're going to dive into today is really understanding how mental health is impacting our gut health. But I want to also acknowledge that you've probably wondered, like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, is my mental health causing my gut issues, or are my gut issues causing my mental health issues? And I want you to know it's a bit of both. Okay. And having said that, we're again focusing on today solely how mental health impacts your gut health. And we have to first start with talking about this in understanding that mental health issues, this is like very broad term for anything from, I'm not even going to name it any kind of conditions, actually, any kind of mental health, anything at all. Any entry point in the spectrum of mental health, we're talking about it, okay? So, but when we talk about that kind of umbrella term, mental health, is that whatever is happening for you within this category, that it is just a symptom. Okay, in other words, if you have anxiety, let's say, okay, anxiety is the symptom. If you have bipolar is the symptom. If you have OCD is the symptom. Okay, it is the symptom. And so when we talk about mental health, know there are a whole bunch of larger causative factors that are contributing, one of which being the state of your gut health. And an even larger part being how you are showing up in your life, who you are being. And one really big source of and I'm not going to say this is the cause of, bipolar or OCD necessarily, but I'm going to say, how do I want to word this? Mental health issues that are, there's no good way to say this. If we're dealing with milder cases of mental health issues, okay? If we're on that end of the spectrum, then I find a really big source of this is our life, our lifestyle, how we're showing up, the things that we're doing. And I want to give you just a quick little tangible example of this, because this can be an example of an area that you might need to go explore. I was just chatting with a client this morning, and fatigue has continued to be like one of the biggest symptoms. We've resolved so much of his gut related symptoms, like constipation and severe abdominal pain and gas and bloating, and all of that stuff is really gone, but the fatigue persists. And I just said to him, like there's something off here. Like, I feel like there's something off. And it's not supplements, it's not protocol. You've done tremendous amount of work. There's something in your life that's off. So tell me what's weighing on your heart. And he said, I want to move to San Francisco and I want to start this tech company. And I said, awesome. Tell me, do you love tech? He's like, I mean, I guess I like it. And I was like, wow, you were about to just move across the country for something that you're like, I guess I like it. And so I want you to know, again, I want to really help you understand that this isn't a sole, I'm not suggesting all mental health is coming from this type of issue, but this is a really, really big issue for so many people. Is their whole life is surrounded by things that they don't really want to be doing, doesn't really bring them joy. They're not feeling a sense of purpose and passion. And this really goes back to our basic human needs. Human needs right down to food and hydration and water, but also purpose and passion. If we don't feel purpose and passion, then what's the point? What is the point? And so for him, what was happening is he's like, yeah, I really want to start this business, but I can't get myself to do stuff. And by the end of the call, he's like, now I understand why I couldn't get myself to start that business, because it's not really what I want to do. And that's where his fatigue was coming from, is there was no motivation to get out of bed except for 15 minutes before he needed to roll over to his computer while he was working at home, because there was nothing lighting him up. Why get up? Why get moving and shaking through the day? There was no passion. And so, the first thing that we have to really do when we're assessing mental health impacts on our gut health is really acknowledge that there's a big piece of our mental health that may be coming from the areas of our life that are within our control. Because a lot of the times when we talk about mental health, we're thinking about it through the lens of some chemical imbalance in our brain. But sometimes it's just how you're showing up in your life. And we have to shift that. We need to stop saying yes to the things we want to say no to, setting some boundaries, right? The other thing for this client is I'm working 2 jobs and I want to quit this part-time job. I hate it. It sucks the life out of me. I'm like, sounds like that's a source of your fatigue, these energy leaks. But he's been procrastinating on it. And so where else in your life have you been procrastinating? Because these are sources of angst in your life, and I call it the ick, right? Places where you're feeling icky are also your sources of energy leaks. And so before we, get into how this is impacting your gut health, it's so important that we start with helping you understand that this is within your control. This is not happening to you. You're not a victim. You're not a victim. And when we start from an empowered place, then we can take that forward all the way into our gut healing. If you're starting this through the lens of this is out of my control, this is happening to me, it's this genetic thing that I carry, right? It came from my mom, my mom's sister's brother's uncle, then why start? Your brain is already decided that there's no hope for you. And so as we talk about mental health, we have to talk about your mindset. We have to talk about how the stories you're telling yourself, the lens in which you're looking through when it comes to healing. And many people are coming at this from the angle of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So again, we can't talk about how this is impacting your gut health until we really address that there's a part of you that's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. There's a part of you that's watching this and you really want to learn how to fix your gut. But subconsciously, there's still a part of you that's I've tried so many things, this probably isn't going to work either. And I just want to call that out. Let's call that elephant out in the room. Because nothing else that I say will matter if there's a part of you that's already decided there's no hope for you. This is mental health. Mental health is in the thoughts that you're thinking, the stories that you're telling yourself, which are then impacting your actions. And so then your habits are being impacted. And when your habits are being impacted, then your reality starts to change. And that's how we're going to start to shift into how this is impacting your physical body, because it's not some woo-woo thing. There's very real, tangible things that are shifting in your body when there is mental health issues going on. And again, I'm going to be talking today, when I again talk about mental health as like this broad, category, know that I'm, again, talking more on the spectrum of milder cases of mental health issues. If you're someone who is struggling with more severe mental health issues, if you are someone who is struggling and needing support, if you're considering harm or have thought about suicide, then I really, really implore you to reach out to help. Ask for help. Don't do this alone. And this is not the type of area that I specialize in. Okay, so you're going to need to seek out someone else who can support you in that regard. But what I can support with is understanding where, again, mental health interjects with gut health and the milder cases of mental health and the things that you can do if you're in that category. And I think that's important to clarify so that we can get you to the right person, place, or thing that can support you. Okay, now let's start talking about our gut health and how mental health starts to impact that, right? You see, as I mentioned, mental health is the thoughts that we're thinking, the stories that we're telling ourselves. And a lot of the times these are voices in our head that we've either learned or heard from our parents or society or whatever. And, they're the thing that the template that we start to build our life from. And so the symptom of anxiety, I'm going to use anxiety as an example for a moment. Anxiety being a symptom. Anxiety is actually like this red flag saying, excuse me, yeah, there's a problem here. And when that comes up for me, one of the things that I like to do is reverse engineer this and be like, whoa, pause. What thought just went through my head? What was the thought that I was just thinking? And usually it takes a moment, especially if you're not used to doing this, but often it will go back to some negative comment in your mind, or some worry, some future casting. And what we're doing is we're out of touch with the present moment, and we're so far in the clouds thinking about some bad thing that could happen, of which 90% of our fears never actually come to be. And what this does is it creates stress in our system. Okay, so there's a very real physical response happening here. Again, no woo, very real physical response. You see, when you are in your head and you're telling yourself, you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh my God, is today going to be a good gut day, bad gut day? Where are you at gut? Do I feel nauseous right now? Oh my God, do I have to poop right now? Or am I going to be able to poop this morning? You know what I'm talking about. When your head starts spinning, when you're spending the first 2 hours of your day thinking about whether you're going to have a bowel movement or you're glued to the toilet, that's what I'm talking about, right? In those moments, your body doesn't actually know what the topic is, right? Your body's not oh, we're discussing poops right now. No, your body is actually just sensing the alarms of, oh wow, head spinning, heart's racing, right? There must be a problem, AKA there must be a bear chasing after me. And if a bear is chasing after me, well, we're not going to sit down and stimulate digestion so we can break down this steak for dinner or whatever, right? All systems get shut down. All of your internal systems get shut down. And all energy goes to your systems that are required to flee from danger, aka your limbs, to run away from danger. Adrenaline, right? Adrenaline. So when we have these thoughts that are going through our head, any kind of busyness that's going on in your mind is going to be perceived by the body as bear chasing after me, danger, there's a problem. And when that happens, rest and digest get shut down and fight or flight gets turned on. So you see, for many people, they're living in fight or flight. And it's really fascinating when we look at people's test results, because there are a few different markers that we look at. And, one of the things I love looking at is on someone's hair mineral analysis is their metabolic type. And their metabolic type really tells us where they're at in that process. It tells us a lot of things. But, I met with someone yesterday for a results review. He's been just doubling down on his health. He had a severe stroke. and heart attack, not stroke. He had a severe heart attack, and he's had all of these gut issues and symptoms coming about, and his bones are breaking down. He's got this spine issue going. It's like been this crazy storm. And he's been so hyper vigilant trying to sort out his health issues, constantly thinking about his health, right? His body's on the brink of burnout. And so seeing his metabolic type, he was fast 4, which tells us that he is in overdrive. And what goes up must come down. He is on the verge of a major crash / burnout. So we can actually see this start to manifest in someone's test results. We can see the other impacts of stress in other damage and deficiencies that start to occur. And so it's a really fascinating thing when we're constantly living in fight or flight. The breakdown of the physical body in our gut is very real. I want to give you some other things that occur when we're in a state of stress. You know, you might not feel like you're in a constant state of stress, but even so much as, let's say you have a busy day at work and you're rushing to eat your lunch. So maybe you're standing up, or maybe you're eating your breakfast on your way to work, right? That kind of busybody while you're eating, the body's going to perceive that as something's going on. We're activated, right? We're not sitting, resting, and digesting. Fight or flight. When we're busy, when we're eating, or we're full-blown stress, let's say you had a stressful day at work, you're feeling angry or anxious or sad or something like, anything like that's going on, any dis-ease in the emotional body, your digestive enzymes get suppressed by 80%. 80%. That means that when you go to eat your food actually can't be broken down. And so this is a big reason why people end up having their foods are rotting and fermenting in their gut. It creates this gas buildup. And then what started as just a stressful day at work, now you've got this gas, this bloating. It might even turn into reflux, abdominal pains. And as this progresses and it continues, so the more you're in a state of stress, we start to see hormone imbalances occur as well. I'm going to touch on hormones just briefly here too. Okay, so when your cortisol continually goes up, it starts to compete with your DHEA. And this competition between the two is part of what helps to balance out your hormonal system. So if we have cortisol constantly being peaked and in high drive, you start to create a DHEA deficiency, which means then your testosterone, your estrogen, and your progesterone are all going to be impacted. So many people are saying like, oh, I'm having these hormone issues too. And it's like, yeah, makes sense. But hormones weren't the problem. Hormones weren't the root cause, they were the symptom too. Right, so now we're in this situation where hormones are out of whack. Well, we've now got digestive enzyme deficiencies going on. And then because foods aren't being broken down properly, you know, they're rubbing up against the gut lining and causing wear and tear. Leaky gut develops, gut permeability. So now we've got whole food particles that are leaking into the blood system. And we're not supposed to have, you know, whole foods in our blood system. The body, the immune system, sounds the alarm. And it's looking at this like, broccoli, like, what are you doing in my blood system? You're not supposed to be here. And so the immune system, when this happens for prolonged periods, the immune system starts to attack these foods. When that's not working, because it's not fixing the leaky gut, then it starts to attack itself, the body. And this is when we start to see autoimmune conditions develop. So now we start to see what started with just like some mild gas and bloating starts to develop into like Crohn's, colitis, diverticulitis. We start to see, you know, all of these other arthritis, all these autoimmune type conditions presenting. Now we're getting into more chronic stress, ongoing, unaddressed stress, aka emotional constipation. And when this doesn't get processed out, when we're not feeling our feelings, this gets suppressed into the body, and the physical body ends up getting the brunt of it. Again, through damage, deficiencies, and now let's talk about infections. Because remember, it started with stress, putting your body into fight or flight, which shuts off the rest and digest your gut, puts you into fight or flight. But as you continue living your life, you're eating your food, you're going on about your day while in constant fight or flight, again, the systems start to break down. So I'm just giving you a quick review. So now we've got enzymes depleted, we've got leaky gut developing, we've got the immune system dysregulation occurring, right? The next thing is then our good bacteria start to become depleted and die off. And when that happens, now your mood, this is where it's like full circle, right? Because now your mood is going to be impacted. Because up to 90% of your serotonin, which is your happy hormone, is produced in the gut, and that's largely dependent on the state of your microbiome, your good bacteria. So when stress is now depleting your good bacteria, now your serotonin, your happy hormone, is being impacted, which now is full circle coming back and impacting your mental health. But what's worse is that your good bacteria are also integral for immune regulation, for digestion, and they also act like bouncers at the door, keeping infections out. So now our defense system is down. This allows infections to start to set in. And this is, again, where we start to see, again, when I talk to clients, usually what happens is they'll say to me, oh, it started back, 4 years ago. The main core symptom that is really impacting their quality of life, that's inconveniencing them. But as we keep talking, what we find out is that their symptoms, the like constipation, they'll say like, oh, I was constipated when I was a kid. Their digestive symptoms actually started years and years ago. But it's really once we hit the tipping point in which our symptoms are impacting our quality of life, our day-to-day life, they're preventing us from being able to eat the foods that our family is eating, so we're having to be like the special one, right? We like can't really go out to restaurants. We're waking up and like first thing we're thinking about is like bowel movements, toilet, right? We're not showing up our best self for our kids because all our kids and our family are hearing is, I can't do that. I can't eat that. And you're the I can't person. Right? And so that's usually the point in which we start taking our symptoms seriously and we're like, okay, now I need to do something about it. But it usually started years and years ago with just that everyday stress that caused some enzyme deficiency that led to your foods not digesting properly. So you got a bit of gassy, got a little bit of bloat. You're like, oh, it's normal. Like, oh, it's fine, because it wasn't impacting you enough to get your attention. And so this is why so many people come into our world and they've been through the ringer. They have, had all kinds of medical screenings done with their doctors. The doctor's telling them everything's normal, but they're not feeling normal. And they've tried a bunch of supplements and they feel like they're banging their heads up against the wall. And it's been like 7 years of this torture, right? It's been years and years of you like in this like discomfort and this pain, trying to find a way through it. And by this time now, you've gone through this whole cycle of mental health's impact on gut health. And we've got all the way to we're loaded with gut infections. But not just gut infections, it's again, those damage deficiencies as well. And so mental health, its impact on gut health, there's a full spectrum of things that occur. And the longer we're in it, the more damage is done. And so if we reverse engineer this, I want to take this like all the way back to the beginning for a moment, because when we go on a journey to correct the function of our gut and really support and coach up the function of the body, right? We've decided that's it. I can't take it anymore. I'm ready to take back my life. I want to have that zest for life again. I want to feel normal. I want to be able to travel and participate and, not watch my family from the sidelines, but be in it with them. Right? I don't want to watch my family swimming in the pool. I want to get in the pool. I want to go swim in the ocean. I want to go travel. I'm sick of watching life through like the windows. Life going by, right? When we get to that point and we start to go back to support the body, we kind of got to reverse engineer this. So we have to work through the damage, deficiencies, and infections. But oftentimes we have to change our mental health too. Because if you show up the same person you are today, if the same version of you today shows up after you've done your protocol, you will end up right back at square one. And so I hear so often people say to me like, I've tried so much and it worked, but then it eventually comes back. My question is like, but did you change who you were being? Did you shift the identity? Right? Because if we go back to the same thoughts, habits, stories, we're going to be back in square one. Because those same, worry patterns and anxious thoughts and future casting and taking on everyone else's stuff and doing all the things for all the people and being the control freak, right? Being in those habits means that we go back through the cycle again. Fight or flight gets initiated, rest and digest gets turned off, enzymes become depleted, leaky gut starts to develop, immune dysregulation starts to develop, right? Good bacteria become depleted, infections start to set in, and even motility damage starts to occur. This is where, like, you know, your contraction of your bowel starts to be impacted. So the supplements are one piece, the food is one piece, but what are you doing for your mental health? Today's been like a really special coaching day for me because I've been, you know, supporting some clients who've been with us for some time who needed that like mental health checkup. And most of our clients inevitably get to this point where we see, okay, the supplements are doing their thing, that they're doing the diet, they're doing all the things. Our clients are so good at executing. They're the people that are like, just tell me what to do and I'll go do it, right? Because they're the doers in their life. They're the people that are always coming to them to get shit done. But they're not so good at executing for themselves. So they do the supplements and they do the dietary changes, the check, right? But they're like really out of alignment in their life. They're saying yes to a lot of things they don't want to be saying yes to. And so today's been a special day because I've been coaching with some of these clients that we've been diving deeper into this, the people pleasing, and like really seeing how that impacts us. We have to like shift these things. And one of the ways that we do this is we look at your symptoms, because symptoms are such a beautiful mirror for you. And part of the way that we have to shift our mental health around our physical health is changing our perception of our symptoms. And so many of you are looking at your symptom and your body like it's the enemy, like it's this weak thing, this like broken thing that needs fixing, and you can't trust it, and it's like acting out on you. But I want you to actually understand that your body and your symptoms are the messenger. They're the message to you to say, hey, there's a problem. It's a little bit inconvenient that it doesn't speak English, right? But one of the ways that we support our clients is understanding the emotional connection behind their symptoms. And so this client, what we were working through is belching and burping and gas pains, right? What was so fascinating was to see the patterns of what was happening from the emotional connection, which was an anticipation anxiety, right? He's got some things in his life. He's getting married and bringing two families together. And he was really in his peacekeeping, really in a ton of fear of making sure that these families merge and come together and that there wouldn't be conflict. And so he had so much anticipation anxiety, and this is the emotional connection behind belching, burping, and gas, right? There's something in them is struggling to digest. This anxiety and fear is like festering inside, and this anticipation anxiety of like worrying something bad is going to happen. And this is where we come back to 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Right? Where your brain is trying to protect you. It's trying to say, hey, I'm trying to prevent bad things from happening. And so I'm going to constantly worry that something bad is going to happen on your behalf, just to make sure that hopefully nothing surprises us. Right? And so I said to him, like, what's the point? What's the point in doing this then? If there's a part of you that's already planning for something bad to happen, if you've already decided that bad things are going to happen, and flares are going to happen and symptoms are going to happen again, then why are we doing this in the first place? Our brains are playing ninja tricks on us. And so your mental health is integral to your gut function, but it's also integral to your healing. And many of us need to do some like serious brain rewiring so that our brains are in a position to heal. So that it's not, you know, people call it self-sabotage, but it's really a trauma response. It's really an adaptation of our brain to try to create a sense of safety. Right? If I can prevent bad things from happening, then I'm safer. if I control a situation, if I'm involved in all of the ins and outs and the inner workings of, Thanksgiving weekend with my family, I just like take it all on myself, then I will know all the ins and outs of what is supposed to happen, and then nothing bad will happen. Where are my control freaks at? This is the part of our mental health that is taking out our gut. It's the long before we get into some of the more significant mental health conditions, which require more than what we're just talking about. But it's starting with the thoughts that you're thinking, the stories you're telling yourself, which are impacting your habits. It's impacting how you're showing up in your life or not showing up in your life for yourself. And so if you're watching this and you're someone who really struggles to follow through, I want you to know this is why. It's not that you require more motivation or more discipline. It's that your brain is desperately seeking safety. Safety. You need to feel safe in order for your body to heal. And in many cases, we aren't the safest place for ourselves because we're making promises to ourselves that we're not keeping. How many times have you told yourself that you're going to drink water today and then you don't drink your water? Or how many times you're like, I'm going to go for a walk every day this week, and then you don't, right? It's also making unrealistic promises to ourselves. Like, instead of 7 days of walking, can we maybe just do like 3? Can we start with 3? Can we stop going from 0 to 100? So I know that it's possible for you to thrive, but your brain needs to know this too. And there's like your brain and then there's you. And these two things, they go hand in hand, but they sometimes like work separately, and we need to like bring them back together. Get your brain on board with your vision. Otherwise, your brain is going to take you out. And it's not going to take you out emotionally. Not just that. It will take you out physically. So whatever you do, don't forget about your mental health in your journey to healing your gut, because they go hand in hand. They do not go without each other. And the clients that we see that really thrive and succeed are the ones that are willing to confront this uncomfortable, the uncomfortable places where we might be actually causing our pain. To be able to really confront the emotions that feel uncomfortable to feel, but are actually very safe for you to feel. And the clients that we see that get plateaued, that only get to a certain point, are the ones that are like, I don't want to feel. I don't want to deal with my thoughts, my stories, the mental health component. I had a client once, she looked at me, she said, I am not doing that. Okay, no problem. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. But I am telling you that it is essential in order for you to heal. All right? Tears are the perfect representation of how your physical body is feeling your emotional body. Isn't that so special? Tears are such a good example of how our physical body feels our emotional body. But also butterflies. Have you ever had butterflies? Everyone's had butterflies, I hope. Right? You know when you like first fall in love or you're dating, you get like the little in your tummy, right? Butterflies. That's your physical body feeling your emotional body. Connected to your emotional body. And we can also feel this in other ways too. You know when you've had a really horrible situation and you just feel like sick to your stomach about it. Have you ever said that before? I just feel sick to my stomach about it. Your physical body is feeling what you are feeling emotionally. And if you don't start processing those emotions, it gets suppressed into the physical body and it will start presenting as symptoms. I need you to get that. You need to get that. And when we really, really start to lean into that and start healing on a mental, emotional, and physical level, you're golden. you'll be off to the races. So I hope that you take away from this call that there is more healing that's possible to you that you may not have explored yet before. That mental health isn't this thing that we're meant to like force or contort, or it's not something that's even happening to you. There's something that you can do about it. And in a lot of cases, there's some element of it that we are doing to ourselves. And that stings a little to hear, but there's truth to it. And there's so much more that you can take control over to really impact healing in your physical body, but you've got to address both, okay? Because again, your mental health does impact your gut health, and your gut health will eventually come back in fun. I'm getting a phone call here. Let me start that again. Your mental health absolutely impacts your gut health, and eventually, when your gut starts to break down, your gut health will impact your mental health. You are not a victim. You are not a victim. This is not happening to you. This is happening for you. That is a reframe that your mental health needs to get wrapped around. Wrap it around that noodle of yours. You're not a victim. This is happening for you. My health issues have been my greatest teachers. If you will allow them to empower you in your healing, if you will be open enough and courageous enough to understand what they're trying to reveal to you, be courageous enough to take this journey. I believe in you. It's possible for you. And I want you to know that I'm here if you need support. So please don't hesitate to reach out. You're not meant to do this journey alone. All right, guys, that's it for today.